Sylvester Stallone stands outside a 7-Eleven in Hollywood with his dog's leash in one hand and his last shred of dignity in the other, when a stranger walks up and offers him $50. What happens in the next 30 seconds doesn't just break his heart. It becomes the moment that defines everything he'll ever create, every character he'll ever play, every story he'll ever tell. This is the day Sylvester Stallone sells the only thing in the world that loves him unconditionally. And what he does 6 weeks later to get that dog back creates one of the most legendary moments in Hollywood history. Los Angeles, California, December 1975. Thursday afternoon, 2:47 p.m. The sun is brutal. That California sun that looks beautiful in postcards, but feels like punishment when you're standing on hot concrete with no place to go. The 7-Eleven sits on the corner of La Brea and Sunset, not the glamorous part of Sunset Boulevard, the part where dreams come to die slowly, where the homeless sleep in doorways, where the smell of exhaust mixes with rotting garbage, where people walk past each other without making eye contact because everyone's carrying their own private hell. Sylvester Stallone is 29 years old, should be in his prime, should be building a career, starting a family, making his mark on the world. Instead, he's standing outside a convenience store, trying to figure out how to eat. He's wearing jeans that are too big because he's lost weight, a t-shirt with a hole under the left arm, sneakers held together with duct tape. His hair is long, greasy, hasn't been washed in a week because the gym where he sometimes sneaks showers kicked him out. His face carries that particular exhaustion that comes from months of malnutrition and stress, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. Next to him sits Butkus, a bull mastiff, 140 pounds of muscle and loyalty and unconditional love. Tan coat, black face, eyes that look at Stallone like he's the greatest man who ever lived. The dog doesn't know they're broke, doesn't know they've been evicted from 3 apartments, doesn't care that Stallone can't book an acting job, can't pay rent, can't afford dog food. Butkus just knows his person is here, and that's all that matters. Stallone's pockets are empty, completely empty. No coins, no bills, no lint, nothing. His bank account has $106 in it, but the rent was $200 3 weeks ago, and the landlord changed the locks yesterday. Everything Stallone owns is in a duffel bag at his friend's apartment. A friend who's getting tired of him sleeping on the couch. A friend who's starting to hint that maybe Stallone should give up, move back to New York, get a real job, stop chasing this impossible dream. But the immediate problem isn't rent or career or future. The immediate problem is food. Stallone hasn't eaten in 2 days, really eaten, not counted crackers stolen from a diner, not split someone's leftover fries, actually sat down and had a meal. His stomach stopped growling yesterday. That's a bad sign. When hunger stops hurting, your body is shutting down, conserving energy, preparing to fail. Butkus hasn't eaten in 2 days either, and that's what's killing Stallone. He can handle his own hunger. He's been hungry before, grew up poor, in Hell's Kitchen, knows what it feels like to go to bed with an empty stomach. But watching Butkus get weaker, watching the dog's ribs start to show, watching him lie down more often because he doesn't have energy to play, that's unbearable. That's the kind of pain that makes you consider things you never thought you'd consider. Stallone tried everything, went to every casting call in town, got rejected from all of them. Your face is crooked, your speech is slurred, you look like a thug, we can't use you. Tried to get day labor work. Moving companies won't hire him because he's too skinny now. Construction sites don't trust him. Even dishwashing jobs are filled. Everyone in LA is desperate. Everyone's chasing something. The competition for survival is as fierce as the competition for stardom.
He sold everything he could sell. His watch gone for $30 2 months ago. His leather jacket, $45 6 weeks back. His television, his radio, his books, his records, all gone. Converted to food and rent and temporary relief. Now there's nothing left to sell except the typewriter he uses to write screenplays nobody wants and Butkus. The typewriter he needs, it's his tool, his hope, his connection to a future where this suffering means something. But Pukas is different. Pukas is alive. Pukas needs food. Pukas deserves better than this. Stallone has been standing outside the 7-Eleven for an hour, not panhandling exactly, just standing, existing, hoping something will happen, hoping someone will recognize him from his bit parts in small films nobody saw, hoping for a miracle that doesn't come. Butkus sits patiently beside him, occasionally looking up with those trusting eyes, waiting for whatever comes next. Then a man walks out of the store, mid-40s sort, working class, carrying a bag of groceries. He sees Stallone and Butkus. Most people look away when they see Desperation. It makes them uncomfortable, reminds them how close they are to the edge themselves. But this man stops, looks at the dog, really looks at him. The man says, "That's a beautiful dog." Stallone nods, doesn't trust his voice, doesn't want to reveal how desperate he is. Desperation scares people away. The man asks, "Bull mastiff?" Stallone says, "Yeah." The man sets his groceries down, kneels. Butkus' tail wags slowly. The man pets him. Butkus leans into the touch, starved for attention, for affection, for anything good in a world that's been hard lately. The man asks, "How old?" Stallone says 3. The man asks, "What's his name?" Stallone's throat tightens. "Butkus." The man smiles like Dick Butkus, the linebacker. Stallone nods. "Can't speak now." Knows what's about to happen, knows what he's about to do, hates himself for it before the words even form. The man stands up, looks at Stallone, really looks at him, sees the hunger, the exhaustion, the barely concealed desperation. The man knows. Everyone in LA knows what broke looks like. It's in the eyes, always in the eyes. The man says, "You selling them?" And there it is, the question, the opportunity, the solution to today's problem that creates a lifetime of regret. Stallone should say no, should walk away, should figure out something else, should go to a shelter, ask for help, swallow his pride, do anything except what he's about to do. But he looks down at Butkus, sees the ribs showing, sees the tiredness, sees a loyal animal suffering because Stallone is failing at life, and something breaks inside him. Stallone says, "Make me an offer." The man says, $50, $50, $50 for the only living thing that loves Stallone without condition. $50 for 3 years of companionship. $50 for the dog who slept next to him when he had nightmares, who waited at the door when he came home from failed auditions, who never judged, never doubted, never left. $50. Stallone should negotiate, should ask for more, should at least try, but he knows the truth. This man isn't going to pay more, and Stallone needs this, needs anything, needs to feed himself so he doesn't collapse, needs to survive another week, another day, another hour. Stallone says, "Okay, 1 word, 2 syllables. A lifetime of shame." The man pulls out his wallet, counts out 5 $10 bills, worn bills, working man's money, hands them to Stallone. Stallone takes them. His hand shakes. The bills feel like blood money, feel like betrayal in paper form. The man reaches for Butkus's leash. Butkus stands up, tail wagging, doesn't understand, thinks this is a new friend, thinks they're all going somewhere together, doesn't know this is goodbye. Stallone hands over the leash, that leather leash he bought when Butkus was a puppy, when Stallone still had hope, when the future looked possible, when he believed hard work and talent would be enough. But Coos looks at Stallone, those trusting eyes, waiting for reassurance, waiting for Stallone to say it's okay, waiting for permission to go with this new person. Stallone can't look at him, can't meet those eyes, can't watch the confusion turn to understanding. He looks down, looks away, looks anywhere except at the dog he's abandoning. The man says, "I'll take good care of him." Stallone nods, still can't speak, throat completely closed. If he opens his mouth, he'll break down completely, and he can't afford to break down. Not here, not in public, not where people can see how far he's fallen. The man walks away, but Koos follows, looks back once, twice, 3 times, waiting for Stallone to call him back, waiting for this to be a game, waiting for everything to be normal again. Stallone doesn't call him back, just stands there with $50 in his hand and a hole in his chest where his heart used to be. They disappear around the corner. Gone, just like that. 3 years of companionship erased in 30 seconds of transaction. Stallone stands outside the 7-Eleven for another 10 minutes. Doesn't move. Can't move. The $50 feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. He wants to chase after them, wants to give back the money, wants to take Butkus and run and figure something else out. But he doesn't, because he's a coward, because he's weak, because he's failing at everything, and this is just more proof. Finally, Stallone walks into the 7-Eleven, buys a sandwich, a cheap sandwich, processed meat, stale bread, wilted lettuce, costs $1.50. He eats it standing in the parking lot. It tastes like sawdust and shame. He can barely swallow, but he finishes it because his body needs fuel, because he has to survive, because giving up means Butkus's sacrifice meant nothing. That night, Stallone sleeps on his friend's couch with $48.50 in his pocket. He doesn't sleep, really, just lies there staring at the ceiling, listening to sounds that aren't Butkus's breathing, feeling an absence that's physical, like missing a limb, like part of him was amputated. He thinks about Butkus constantly, wonders if he's eating, if he's confused, if he thinks Stallone abandoned him, if he's waiting by a door somewhere for Stallone to come back. The thoughts are torture, but Stallone deserves torture, deserves every second of this pain. The next morning, Stallone makes a decision. This is it, rock bottom, the lowest point, the moment where everything either changes or ends. He's done being desperate, done being helpless, done being a victim of circumstances. He's going to write something real, something that comes from this pain, something that transforms suffering into art. He goes to the library, free and warm, sits at a typewriter in the corner, starts writing. Doesn't have a plan, doesn't have an outline, just starts putting words on paper, words about a man who has nothing, a man who's been beaten down by life, a man who gets one shot at redemption. But he can't focus, keeps thinking about Butkus, keeps seeing those eyes looking back, keeps hearing the click of the leash changing hands. The memory won't let him work. 3 days pass. Stallone burns through $40 on food, and one night in a cheap motel has $8.50 left. Back to nothing, back to desperate. The writing isn't going anywhere, just fragments, pieces of scenes that don't connect. Then something happens. December 28th, 1975. Stallone turns on a TV in a bar where he's nursing a single beer, making it last hours. The bartender knows he's broke, lets him stay because the place is empty anyway. On the screen, a boxing match, Muhammad Ali versus Chuck Wepner, the Bayonne Bleeder, a nobody, a journeyman fighter who has no business in the ring with the greatest boxer alive. Everyone knows Wepner will lose. The only question is how badly, how fast, how humiliating the defeat will be. But Wepner doesn't quit. Gets knocked down, gets back up, gets knocked down again, gets back up again, bleeds, suffers, takes punishment that would destroy most men, but keeps fighting, keeps trying, keeps believing that maybe impossibly he can win. He doesn't win. Ali stops him in the 15th round, but Wepner goes the distance, survives, proves something, proves that heart matters, that refusing to quit matters, that the fight itself has value even when you lose. Stallone watches this, sees himself, sees every broke dreamer in Los Angeles, sees everyone who's been told they're not good enough, sees the metaphor so clearly it hurts, the underdog, the impossible fight, the refusal to stay down. He leaves the bar, runs back to his friend's apartment, gets his typewriter, starts writing, really writing, not fragments, a complete story, a fighter named Rocky, a nobody who gets a shot at the champ, who doesn't expect to win, just wants to go the distance, just wants to prove he's not just another bum from the neighborhood. Stallone writes for 3 days straight, barely eats, doesn't sleep. The words pour out like they've been building pressure for years, like this story has been inside him waiting for the right moment to emerge. He writes about pain, about humiliation, about refusing to quit even when quitting makes sense. He writes about a man who has nothing except his dignity and his determination. He writes about himself. He finishes the screenplay in 72 hours. It's rough, needs editing, but it's complete, it's real, it's the best thing he's ever written. He knows it, feels it, this is the one, this is his shot. But even as he finishes, even as he types he thinks about Butkus, wonders what Butkus would think if he could see this, if he'd be proud, if he'd forgive him. Stallone takes the script to every agent, every producer, every studio contact he has, gets rejected, too predictable, too cliche. Boxing movies don't make money. Nobody wants to see a movie about a loser. But Stallone keeps pushing, keeps submitting, keeps believing. Then, miracle of miracles, someone bites. United Artists, they like it, they want it. They offer $25,000 for the script, $25,000, more money than Stallone has ever seen, enough to change his life, enough to eat, to live, to survive. But there's a condition. They want a real actor to play Rocky, Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, James Caan, someone bankable, someone who can sell tickets. Not Stallone, never Stallone. He can write, but he can't star. That's the deal. Stallone says no. The executives think he's insane. He has $8.50 to his name. He's sleeping on a couch. He's sold his dog for food money, and he's turning down $25,000 because of pride, because of ego, because he thinks he can act. But Stallone doesn't budge. This story is his story. This pain is his pain. Rocky is him. If someone else plays Rocky, it means nothing. It's just a movie, just entertainment. But if Stallone plays Rocky, it's testimony. It's proof. It's transformation of suffering into triumph. They increase the offer $50,000, $100,000, $150,000, keep going up. Stallone keeps saying no. His friends think he's destroying his life. His agent threatens to drop him. Everyone says, take the money. Be realistic. You're not a star. You're a nobody with a crooked face and a speech impediment. But Stallone holds firm, not because he's brave, because he's already lost everything, already sold the thing he loved most, already betrayed his own heart. If he sells this script without starring in it, what was the point? What did Butkus's sacrifice mean? Nothing. Just another transaction. just more survival without purpose. Finally, United Artists caves, tiny budget, $1 million total. Stallone can star, but he's getting scale, minimum wage for actors, a few $1,000s, not the fortune he turned down, just enough to survive. Stallone says yes. They start filming in January 1976. 6 weeks after Stallone sold Butkus, the shoot is 28 days, grueling, low budget, no room for error. Stallone writes, stars, shapes every element, pours everything into it, all the pain, all the hunger, all the shame of standing outside a 7-Eleven choosing between loyalty and survival. During filming, Stallone does something, uses part of his tiny salary to do something insane, something desperate, something that proves he never forgot. He goes looking for Butkus, goes back to the 7-Eleven, asks around, describes the man, describes the dog. Nobody knows anything. Too much time passed. Too many transactions. Too much Los Angeles anonymity. Stallone doesn't give up. Posts flyers, asks in pet stores, checks dog parks, becomes obsessed, needs to find him, needs to make it right, needs to undo the worst thing he ever did. 3 weeks of searching, nothing. Butkus is gone. Disappeared into a city of millions. Could be anywhere. Could be dead. Then, impossibly, a lead. Someone saw a bull mastiff matching the description, gives an address. Stallone goes there immediately, knocks on the door. The same man answers. The man from the 7-Eleven, he recognizes Stallone, says, I know who you are now. Saw your face in the trades. You're making a movie. Stallone doesn't care about movies, doesn't care about recognition, says, I want my dog back. The man's face hardens, says, he's not your dog anymore. You sold him. He's mine now. Stallone says, I'll buy him back, whatever you want. The man says he's not for sale. And here's the moment. Here's where everything Stallone learned, everything he suffered, everything he became has to matter. He could threaten, could get angry, could use his size, his desperation, his willingness to do anything. But instead, Stallone tells the truth. Tells the man why he sold Butkus. The hunger, the eviction, the hunger, the eviction, the complete collapse of everything. Tells him about the shame, about lying awake every night thinking about those eyes looking back, about writing Rocky as penance, as proof that the suffering meant something, as transformation of pain into purpose. Tells the man he doesn't deserve Butkus back, knows that, but needs to try, needs to make it right, needs to be the man. Butkus always thought he was. The man listens, doesn't interrupt. When Stallone finishes, the man is quiet for a long time. And the man says $15,000, $15,000, 300 times what Stallone sold him for. Nearly everything Stallone is making from Rocky. The man knows Stallone is desperate, knows he'll pay anything, is taking advantage of that desperation. But Stallone doesn't negotiate, doesn't argue, just says deal. They do the transaction. Cash. Stallone empties his bank account, goes back to broke, back to nothing. But this time he's holding Butkus's leash. This time those eyes are looking at him again, and Butkus's tail is wagging, no grudge, no resentment, just pure joy at being reunited. Stallone brings Butkus to the set, convinces the director to write him into the movie. Butkus appears in Rocky as Rocky's dog. The dog who was sold for $50 becomes a movie star, appears on screen in what becomes one of the most successful films in history. Rocky premieres November 1976, exceeds all expectations, makes $225 million worldwide, gets nominated for 10 Academy Awards, wins Best Picture, wins Best Director, makes Stallone a star, changes his life completely, changes cinema. Rocky premieres November 1976, exceeds all expectations, makes $225 million worldwide, gets nominated for 10 Academy Awards, wins Best Picture, wins Best Director, makes Stallone a star, changes his life completely, changes cinema. At the premiere, Stallone brings Butkus, red carpet, flashbulbs, cameras. The dog who witnessed the lowest point gets to witness the highest point, gets to be there when it all pays off. In interviews, reporters ask Stallone about his inspiration, about where Rocky came from. He tells them about Chuck Wepner, about the underdog, about refusing to quit, but he doesn't tell them about the 7-Eleven, about the transaction, about the betrayal and the redemption. That story is private, sacred between him and Butkus. Years later, decades later, Stallone finally tells the story publicly. His voice breaks when he talks about it, says selling Butkus was the lowest point of his life, says buying him back was the moment he became the man he wanted to be, says every success, every achievement, every moment of glory is connected to that dog, to that shame, to that refusal to let the worst moment define him. Butkus lived until 1981, 6 years after being sold, 5 years after being bought back, died of old age peacefully in Stallone's home, surrounded by comfort, by love, by proof that loyalty gets rewarded eventually. When Butkus died, Stallone didn't work for 2 months, grieved properly, completely, gave the dog the honor he deserved, the honor Stallone failed to give him outside that 7-Eleven. At Butkus's memorial private ceremony, just family, Stallone said, "You loved me when I had nothing, when I was nobody. When I betrayed you, you forgave me instantly. You taught me what unconditional means, what loyalty means, what loathe means. Rocky isn't my greatest achievement. Getting you back is. Everything else is just career. You were life." Now, 50 years later, people still tell the story. The dog Stallone sold for $50, the dog he bought back for $15,000, the dog who appeared in Rocky, the dog who witnessed it all. The story becomes legend, becomes metaphor, becomes proof that our worst moments can become our greatest teachers. What are you willing to sell when you're desperate? What defines you, the moment of weakness or the fight to make it right? Because sometimes the lowest point is just preparation for the highest point. Sometimes betrayal becomes the foundation for loyalty. Sometimes selling what you love is the first step toward understanding what love actually means. Stallone sold his dog, but he bought him back. And in doing that, he bought back his own soul, proved that redemption is always possible, that mistakes don't define us, that the fight to be better is the fight that matters most. 30 seconds outside a 7-Eleven, $50, one transaction. A lifetime of meaning. That's the power of second chances. That's the power of refusing to let shame win. That's the power of love that survives betrayal and becomes stronger for it. Who's the Butkus in your life? What did you sell that you need to buy back? What mistake are you carrying that's waiting to be transformed into redemption? Because the story isn't over until you decide it's over. And sometimes the worst thing you ever did is just the beginning of the best thing you ever become.